Right now we want to go ahead and bring our party speaker forward so that we can get our party line out. I'll let this brother come forward and speak. Give it up for my brother from another mother, King Terrence Tyler. Give it up.
Yay! Yes!
All right, people. Won't be long here. Oh, my cards just fell in order. Grab these cards. They're numbered. As soon as I pull them out. Yeah. But luckily you study your cards. All right, real quick. First thing I want to talk about is I want to thank you all for coming out to the 29th GarveyFest. PRSP, greatly appreciated. Just want to say a couple of things about Baba. Yes, first thing about Baba is my personal connection to him. And I say this all the time, it was Baba who introduced theory and practice to me. You know, it was more than just learning about your history and learning about your ancestors, but acting on that, being involved, mobilizing, and organizing. And I think Baba's biggest contribution to the city of Milwaukee and to us and to his people is this notion, this idea, this philosophy of Pan-Africanism, which I'm going to speak on shortly. But if you look at, if you study all of the ancestors, Malcolm X, Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the Garveys, Amy Ashwood, Amy Dock, along with Marcus, W.E.B. Du Bois, all of these people came to a conclusion that the fastest way for us to get our liberation is through Pan-Africanism. All right. Hey, you may have to work these cards. Okay. All right. The first thing I want to talk about is every year PRSP produces a calendar. This year's calendar was called The Eternal Enemy. It talks about African people's struggles against our own weaknesses. Now, we at PRSP understand that the principal enemy is capitalism. We know this system where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, where the 1% runs everything in this society, controls the resources, and the people suffer, is our primary enemy. That's no secret. That's one of the reasons why we out here, we have the prison industrial complex. One of the reasons is our high unemployment wage. Charlene talked about it earlier with Milwaukee being one of the worst cities that, they allegedly say to grow up an African kid in. So there's no secret to the problems that take place in this country, in this system. However, we want to look at the internal struggles. These are things that go through us that we are having a problem with that we can figure out. So there's this brother you all probably know called Amilcar Cabral, African theoretician. He was the leader of the PAIGC. He was also, he wrote a book called The Weapon of Theory. And here's a quote by Amilcar Cabral. He says, "We note, however, that one form of struggle in which we consider to be the fundamental has not been explicitly mentioned. We refer to this struggle here as a struggle against our own weaknesses." And that's what I want to focus on briefly, some of these struggles that we have within. The first one I want to talk about, these internal struggles, is those neo-colonial puppets. Mama D mentioned that earlier. Those neo-colonial puppets are African leaders, presidents, chiefs in Africa who milk the resources to enrich themselves while the people continue to suffer. I was out there firsthand in Ghana in June, saw it for myself. Like those colonial puppets in Africa, here in the U.S. we have what we call Uncle Tom leaders. And if you just paid attention to number 45, Trump, you see that he surrounds himself sometimes with these Uncle Tom leaders. One of your beloved brothers in hip-hop, I don't claim him anymore, but Kanye West was part of that. Most of those top-of-the-line preachers side with Trump. Steve Harvey fell victim to it. Ray Lewis. So all of these leaders out there who continue to try to enrich themselves at the expense of their own people, we call those Uncle Tom leaders. We have civil wars in Africa. If you don't know, innocent women and children are being raped, murdered, and even sold by warlords in various countries in Africa. These warlords try to enrich themselves with the resources of Africa by selling them to the highest imperialist bidder. So we should know that all of us who walking around with a cell phone, it has cocaine in it. There's only one place in the world where that's found in the Congo area. So you don't have a cell phone without the Congo. And if we go to the Congo now, those people are some of the poorest in the world. Just like those civil wars in Africa, here in the U.S., especially here in Milwaukee, this summer has been a B&B summer. It's been a beautiful summer, weather-wise, and it's been a bloody one on the streets. And we like to talk about or what we would say, African on African crime. Now, again, we understand that the system of capitalism is the principal enemy. And when you struggle to find your basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, proper education, quality health care, you're going to struggle. So any ethnic group, any hood in America where those things are a struggle to get, you're going to have violence upon each other. So we got to learn, we got to understand that, fix this system, and then that will filter down. Because unfortunately, all of the marches, the memorials are not working. So we got to reach the people by educating them about this system and also practicing our principles. We got to treat each other like we want to be treated. Humanism, working together in a cooperative manner, collectivism, and giving everyone an equal opportunity, egalitarianism. A couple of more internal struggles that we have. Backward habits and obsolete traditions. I don't want to, well, I'm going to say it anyway. But polygamy is a dead issue. You know, every tradition from Africa ain't a good tradition. That's nowhere in society. So some traditions we have to go do away with. And today in this capitalist society, polygamy is not one. That's something we got to do away with. Bride price. I don't know if you ever heard of bride price, where two families, the female's family negotiate with her husband about what it's going to cost for the marriage. And who loses the voice in that is the female. She has no power in that relationship, in that connection. So that's another tradition that we have to do away with. And the sister talked about it earlier about the 4th of July. All of these garbage holidays. We understand that we as African people love to come together, family and politic and communicate and things of that nature. But we got to do it better under different circumstances. 4th of July is a travesty. Anybody who's still celebrating that, wearing red, white, and blue and rocking the flag, I just don't get it. Thanksgiving, Misgivings Day, we got to do better with that one. Another obsolete tradition and tragedy that we need to get rid of is this whole boss man mentality in the household. There's no way me and my partner can both work 8 hours a day and I come home and expect her to cook, clean, and take care of the kids and things of that nature. That mentality has to go. That's played out. You know, during slavery, unfortunately, we had the most egalitarian way of living during slavery. The male could not come home or come to the hut after slavery and expect this woman to do everything when she was right next to him picking the cotton and things of that nature. So we have to have better relationships and balance in there. Another internal weakness is these cultural hustlers. They look like you, me. They walk around here with red, black, and green, gold and green on. They got a ton of beads, but they do everything for profit. And those are the cultural hustlers. You know, you cannot collect money for a school for the past 10 years, and that school is not built, and things of that nature. So we got a couple of cultural hustlers that we got to be aware of. They spit knowledge, but they misinform the people, and they're not mobilizing and organizing the people. I just touched upon this earlier, the oppression of the African female. We understand that there are 3 ways that we are oppressed. We are oppressed through class, reality, rich, poor. We are oppressed through race, black, white, European, African. But the other way we are oppressed, that we as African men are not oppressed, but the women are, and that's gender. because we come home and turn it out on them. So somehow we got to build better relationships, understand that the foundation of the African family will always be the woman. And we got to stand on that. This whole thing about hating, I'm not on social media, so people send me these things. But if you look on social media, the gifs, the memes that are made, it's just downright disgusting how we play each other and hate on each other. I saw one yesterday, dark-skinned, real big sister, had weave in her hair, but the weave looked similar to cotton candy. So somebody sent a split screen of cotton candy and this thick sister with her stomach hanging out and the weave looking like cotton candy. And it's too many of those images circulating through social media that we tend to think is funny that we got to do away with. So that hating got to go. Last one here that I want to talk about is individualism. We got to stop focusing on ourselves. We got to stop thinking me and think we. We got to stop thinking I and think us. Focusing on these selfish desires at the expense of the well-being of African people. Again, we got to practice collectivism. We understand that we live in a dog-eat-dog society and I got to get mine type of society. But if you think about all the ancestors who are on the wall, all of the ones we study, all of them was about the collective well-being of African people. So we can't keep saying I got to get mine at the expense of people. So in closing, I want to talk to you about the solution. Again, Dr. Ahmed Mbalia, the Garveys, Malcolm X, Kwame Nkrumah, they all came to this notion called Pan-Africanism. It is the fastest way that we can get ours collected. And that's the unification and liberation of Africa under an all-scientific African government. In other words, and Mama D like to say you don't have to go to Africa, but I remember Baba always telling me, go to Africa if you want to. We know all of us can't go. The diaspora may not make it back, but if you got that opportunity, please go back. But you can get yours in Milwaukee by fighting for and struggling for Pan-Africanism. Because if you don't know, give me that next paper here. One of the pieces in the calendar here talks about if Africa was one country. If Africa was one country today, it would be the third most populous country in the world behind China and India. It would have the fourth largest economy in the world behind China, India, and the US. Africa would produce 75% of the platinum, 55% of the diamonds, and 20% of the gold if it was one country. So if it was one united and liberated Africa, we can use those resources to benefit us. That is Pan-Africanism. Even if you don't step foot in Africa, Marcus Garvey never did, you would still be able to benefit from that wealth. There's an old equation that we say, land equals wealth, because the only land we can claim is Africa. We can't claim the Native Americans' land here. Wealth equals power, power equals respect, and from respect you get liberation. A united socialist Africa means that African people would stand on their own 2 feet. African people would demand justice and equal trade. African people will have a new and powerful image about themselves. There's nowhere in the world we can go right now where African people are looked at positively together. Nowhere. So once you use those resources to enrich the people, we will have a new image that we all can be proud of. So in closing, I want you to stand up and be counted as part of the Pan-African Revolution to defeat global capitalism. I want you to join an organization, whether you join PRSP, whether you join organizations here, whether you decide to create and make one on your own. Do that. And in the words of Kwame Nkrumah, forward ever, backwards never. And in the words of Ahmed Baba Mbalia, Africa thanks you. And right now we're going to give this mic back to Brother Melvin.
All right, give it up, PRSP, Brother Terrence.